Hey guys, it's Callie and welcome back to my channel, and I watch an episode of every new Winter 2022 anime. Now usually when I'm looking at the new series coming out, I immediately sort by the romance and the sports tags, and those are pretty much the only ones that I watch, and I completely ignore the rest. And while this does feed the romance trash demon inside of me, I sometimes feel like I'm missing out because I just don't give other series a chance. So for this season, I decided to watch an episode from every series coming out and give them all a fair shot. Now I do want to clarify that I only watch new series, so any OVAs or continuing seasons weren't included in my list. I did try my best to find an episode for every series, but some were just a little too hard to find, and I didn't want to risk getting a computer virus for the sake of a video. So here are a few series that were axed just because I couldn't find a video for them. Also, quick shout out to Joey the Anime Man and Azakura, who I both saw do similar videos, and they kind of gave me the inspiration to do this, so I'll link both their channels down below. And lastly, if you're new to my channel, welcome! I make videos mostly about anime and animated shows, mixed in with a few random wildcards, so if that sounds interesting to you, be sure to check out the other videos on my channel and subscribe if you want to see more. Alright, that'll do it for the intro, so without further ado, let's get into it. So let's start off with the series I was most excited for, Sasaki to Miyano. It's about a male student who enjoys boys' love and his junior who's in love with him because it's a boys' love series. And this show is adorable. The two main characters are so cute and their dynamic is just really refreshing, and the entire series just feels like a nice warm hug from my heart. I will say the first episode was a little bit slow with a lot of fluff, and the animation at times felt a little bit lacking or simple, but the show definitely made up for it with well-written characters and some pretty solid voice acting. Plus, the two main characters seem to have a pretty healthy romantic relationship, which, isn't really common in the boys' love genre, so it's nice to see a dynamic that isn't based on red flags. Next up is My Dress Up Darling, which, ooh, wait a second, is that a mature content tag? I don't think I've ever seen those on Crunchyroll before. The series is about a loner high schooler whose dream is to make Hina dolls and his blossoming friendship with his classmate after agreeing to help her with her cosplay outfits. And honestly, the show is pretty good. The animation is incredible, it's honestly beautiful to look at, and I absolutely love the character designs, like they all just have such cool aesthetics. I am curious to see what quote mature content looks like because so far the fan service hasn't been too bad, but I'm a little scared to see what's to come in future episodes. I don't know how this show is real. I even looked back at my notes and I still don't know how this show is real. So in a nutshell, the show is about two office workers who are sent to a fantasy world by a mysterious being. The catch? One of them gains superpowers and the other is transformed into a woman. So after our hentai protagonist is turned into his version of an ideal woman, the two of them then confront the being that sent them there and insult her and basically piss her off. So as a punishment, she puts a love spell on them and the two of them have to find a way out without falling in love with the other one.
Huh?
There's just so much to unpack with this show, I don't even know where to start. But I will say I am excited to see where the show goes because it's chaotic and I love chaos. Also, there seems to be kind of this really big underlying plot going on, and I am interested in seeing where that goes. Getting back to my comfort zone, next up we have Love of Kill, and I hate that I love this show. To be honest, I don't really know what's going on in the show, but I love it. It seems like a romantic story between two assassins who are trying to outwit each other, and I am eating it up. Looking back at my notes, I wrote, hot juicy garbage, shovel it into my mouth, which seems pretty accurate. You show me romance, you show me a hot, semi-toxic man, and sprinkle in a little enemies to lovers with memory loss, and you've got the recipe to my heart. No, I don't know how to feel about this show because I do really like the gothic and overall aesthetics of it, but at the same time, I don't know what's going on. The anime is apparently about Shakespeare's King Henry and his son Richard during the War of Roses, but it's been years since I've read anything Shakespeare, and history was my least favorite subject, so I'm a little lost. I'm also a little iffy on the show because the main character is intersex, which, could be a cool opportunity for representation, except they constantly refer to him as a demon child and call his body abomination and cursed and the body of a devil. So yeah, we'll see how it plays out. I also want to note this is the second Funimation series I found semi-questionable, as Kageki Shoujo last season had some iffy victim-blaming vibes. But yeah, I don't really have anything more to say about that show or this show, but I did kind of want to just bring it up. Okay, for this one, before you judge me, just hear me out. While I don't understand how this series isn't just hentai, I am fully invested in the story. World's End Harem takes place in 2040, a world where technology is at its peak, healthcare is impeccable, and people only work if they want to or choose to. However, our main character has a terminal illness that won't be cured until a few years later. So in order to survive, he goes into a cryogenic sleep in order to wake up when a cure is available. Flash forward 5 years where he wakes up to a post-apocalyptic society where a virus called the male killer virus has wiped out 99.9% of the male population, and he has to help repopulate the world by sleeping with a bunch of women.
どうか人類を救うためにこの世界に残された女性たちと子作りしていただきたいのです。
Like I said, I don't understand how this isn't hentai. And normally I'm not into harems, but this one has a pretty good plot, and it seems like it's a lot more than just, women throwing themselves at a generic man. I also love how low of ratings the show is getting because all the naked women are censored and, you can't see anime titties. Like, it's Crunchyroll, of course it's gonna be censored. They can't just show full nudity and people having sex, or I don't know, at least I haven't seen that on a platform so far, so everybody calm down. Actually, my only issue with the show is how much the women are depending on this one man. You're telling me in the golden age of science and technology, the top women scientists couldn't figure out a way to make new humans without the need for men or sperm? Isn't that already a thing? Aside from the fact that it's basically softcore porn, it's a pretty solid series, and I'm most likely gonna watch more of it. I also just finished binging True Blood, so I also need something to fill that, softcore void in my heart. Now, there are a lot of new series this season, and some of them I just didn't have a lot to say about, so I'm gonna do a quick speed run through some of them. Futsal Boys seems like your basic sports anime with the classic Kageyama and Hinata character types. TBD if it's anything special, but I do love me a good sports series, so I'm excited to see where it goes. Plus, I also love these dumb little power moves they do when they kick the ball. It's just so fun and silly to me. Kodama Kawashiri is about a girl just living her best homebody life, which, as a fellow homebody I can respect. But the series is 2.5 minutes long, 60% of which is the intro, where apparently the entire animation budget went, so I don't think I'll be watching more. Sorario Utility is a nice, cute, fluffy sports anime, and it's only one episode, so go check it out if you're into that. Ninjala is a children's anime with a lot going on. It's not bad, but not for me. Monsters Development Department is like if they made a series about the people who made the monsters in Power Rangers. It's a fun workplace comedy, and I was honestly surprised with how much I enjoyed it. I don't know if I'll keep up with it, but I still had a good time watching it. Orient wasn't bad, and it was interesting to see a dystopian society in the past rather than the future, but other than that, there wasn't really anything to note. Police in a Pod wasn't terrible, but it's just not for me. Although the Sailor Moon references and queerbaiting did almost get me.
何度も後悔することになる。すっごい美人。
She Professed Herself, The Pupil of a Wise Man is another anime about reincarnated into a virtual world. I found it a little boring if I'm being honest, and I was a little confused about what was going on in the show because instead of explaining a critical point in the series, they just have a 5-minute sequence kind of reminiscent of Fantasia where the main character is just wandering around in classical music. But I do think the use of music in this series is interesting as this was kind of the big second musical number in the episode. And the Land of Leadale is yet another reincarnation anime. It wasn't bad, and I liked all the characters so far. It just seems like a series that I'd binge rather than watch week to week, so maybe I'll come back to it later in the season. The Strongest Sage with the Weakest Crest had a really solid start, but I kind of found the characters a little bit one-dimensional, and it kind of felt like they were throwing a lot of lore at us in the first episode. The Prince Who Would Sell His Kingdom wasn't really doing it for me. The MC was kind of annoying, and the series has strong harem vibes with his braless secretary, the fetishized cute sister, and the strong silent hot lady. I don't know, not for me. Irodorimidori was fine, but each episode was only 3 minutes long, and it felt like not a lot was happening in those 3 minutes, so I don't know if I'll keep watching. Plus, I just searched for it, and I don't think it's worth the effort in my opinion. Q is an anime about voice actors, which is kind of cool because I don't think I've heard of a series with that concept before. But there's just so many girls, I don't even recognize a quarter of them, so I don't know, just not for me. Fantasia's Sango lost me because they were kind of just shoveling a lot of lore down our throats, and I couldn't really follow what was going on. It was also a lot of directly explaining the lore to us rather than just showing us it through the story, which I guess a fair amount of animes do, but I'm just not the biggest fan of it. Akebi Sailor Universe uniform is about a girl in her school uniform, and it's honestly pretty cute and really just beautiful to look at. The amount of detail that went into animating the show is incredible. Personally, I just find slice of life's kind of boring and they really just don't do it for me. Plus, there was also this one weird scene where the girl's clipping her toenails and then smelling her feet on them, but we're just gonna move on. Saiyuki Realized Zeroin I actually wasn't able to watch because it was behind High Dive's paywall and the series didn't sound interesting enough to entice me to sign up for a free trial. Although I will say this was my first time hearing about High Dive and their catalog does look interesting, so I don't know, I might do a review of the platform in the future. Okay, speedrun over, we're almost to the end of this list, let's finish off strong. You know how there's trash shoujo, where there's the prince male lead and overused miscommunication tropes and they don't get together until the very last episode? Well, this is trash shonen. This series has it all. Sports, hype, fighting, an OP protagonist, gritty aesthetics, futuristic technology, you name it. And you know what? I love trash.
I'm the trash man. I come out, I throw trash all over the ring, and then I start eating garbage.
I don't really know what's going on in this series, but I love it. I also love how they don't play regular baseball, they play extreme baseball. Like, the Collins better watch out. I don't know, the series is just a lot of fun, and it kind of has the same chaotic energy as Skate the Infinity, so I'm definitely going to keep an eye on this one. Tokyo's 24th Ward also has some pretty chaotic vibes and is overly ridiculous at times, which I just love. It's about 3 childhood friends coming together after gaining what appears to be superhuman powers. And the plot is pretty good, and I enjoy all the characters, especially this one, so I'm excited to keep watching it. I'll be honest, I didn't expect to like this show as much as I did. Like I said, slice of lives don't really do it for me, but this one just had such good writing and character development in the first episode that they've convinced me to keep watching. The story is about 2 girls who have recently become sisters and their day-to-day life as they adjust to their new family dynamic. And the show does a good job at portraying the struggles of a blended family. It's hard to be a step-parent, you know, it's hard to move into a new house, and it's hard to process moving on from a family dynamic that you once held near and dear. And beneath all the fun fishing facts and jokes, there's a lot of heart and emotion to the show, and I can't wait for it to wreck me emotionally. And this show gave me whiplash with how quickly I kept changing my mind about it. Because initially my response was, it's another series with women in skimpy outfits for no reason, you know. I don't really think I'm gonna, oh my god.
Something LGBT just happened to me just now, like I can't even make this shit up.
I went from not liking the series to loving the series because 1, the show just kind of feels a little gay. And 2, I don't know if I'll be able to fully describe it, but I don't mind the outfit choices in this series because it feels like something the characters themselves would choose. And I think that's my issue with a lot of sexualization and fan service in anime, because a lot of times it feels like the characters have no agency in if they're portrayed sexually. And yes, they're fictional characters, but I think a good example of this is how in Slow Loop, there's this sexualized close-up of this underage girl who isn't intending to be perceived as sexual, versus this hot woman who knows she's got a rockin' bod and wants to show it off. It's like the Green M&M. If she wants to be a little hoe, let her be a little hoe. Anyway, I'm getting off track and this is a rant for another time, but I do like the character design in this series, and I really appreciated the sick as hell female characters. That being said, the show is not for me. The show is based off a mobile tactile game, and I don't know if I needed to play the series in order to understand what's going on. They are just throwing so much information at me, I just couldn't really follow what was all happening. So I probably won't continue to watch it, but I do love the shot of a woman shooting guns from under her skirt. Now I think Sabuki Bisco might be the sleeper hit of the season because the first episode was incredible. It takes place in a post-apocalyptic world where the earth has become a desert, a mysterious disease causes rust to grow on bodies, and mushroom terrorists plague the city. That's right, mushroom terrorists. Incredible. And I know it sounds like a lot to wrap your head around, and I am still trying to fully figure it out, but the storytelling of this series really sells it. From the hype to the characters to the world building, I am already heavily invested in the show after just 20 minutes. And this show was the only one that made me really look forward to the next episode because I wanted to know what happened next, which is something I haven't felt since I first watched Jujutsu Kaisen, which I think speaks wonders for this series. But yeah, I highly recommend this show, and I definitely keep an eye on it because it's shaping up to be a wild ride. Hi, it's Kylie from the future or past. I don't know, don't think about it too hard. So I'm recording this a little bit after the first half of the video because 2 of the titles I'm going to talk about didn't come out until like the end of January. But yeah, anyway, now you know why I like different, so let's get into the next title. So Freak Angels is a Crunchyroll original that's based off a webtoon, which is really cool, and I'm always about, webtoons and artists getting more representation and more opportunities. And it's honestly a pretty good series. The story is really good, the plot is great, they seem like they have a really clear sense of where they're going. Plus, even though there's so many characters, we still get a pretty good sense on who each of them is, which I feel like is really difficult and a lot of series don't execute pretty well. My only thing is that sometimes the audio and the voice acting leave a little bit to be desired. I think the voice actors did a really great job. It's just sometimes it feels like there's not really a lot of emotion behind it and they're kind of just reading their lines, which sometimes just takes me out of it a little bit. And that coupled with the fact that the audio mixing is incredibly inconsistent just kind of, really sells the series short a little bit. It's so hard to know what's going on when I can't understand what a character is saying because there's like 10 other sounds that are overlapping with it. And that coupled with the fact there's no subtitles just really has my brain going like,
A-part-tip redact.
What?
A-part-tip redact. Scavern.
What are you talking?
Raverdent Scavern.
Audio can really make or break a series, and it's just unfortunate that the audio here just kind of takes away from the series as a whole. But again, the story is really good, and I do really enjoy it. It kind of has really big Umbrella, Academy, and X-Men vibes. Plus, all the episodes are out, so it's a great binge watch, and I really recommend checking it out and supporting, series based on webtoons and smaller artists. So this next one actually came out at the beginning of the month, but I just needed more time to organize my thoughts about it because I had a lot of opinions in regards to the animation, or I guess the response to the animation. The animation in Rusted Armors isn't very good. Like, it just isn't. The CGI is kind of choppy, the facial expressions on the characters just really isn't there, and it's really just not the most enjoyable to look at. That being said, I think the response to this series is incredibly overblown and just unnecessarily harsh. There are a lot of comments I've seen saying the animators, didn't try and somebody else could do better, and how does this look like this when Arcane just showed how great 3D animation can be? I think what people need to remember is that while animation is, a result of passion, it also is a result of time and money. Arcane was revolutionary in the animation world, it was a beautiful masterpiece. But it was also a series of a giant corporation that's based off of a game by another giant corporation. So of course it's not going to look bad when you have, these big corporations funding it. And the studio seems to be a smaller or even maybe a new studio because when I looked up other titles that they did, this Rusted Armors was the only one. So there might be this smaller or new studio that, maybe the past 2 years had a lot of budget cuts or, just struggled to kind of stay afloat throughout everything that's been happening since 2019. There might be a lot going on behind the scenes that we don't know, or maybe the executives of the studio told the animators, to just get something out quick and fast. And so I feel like comments directly attacking the animators are unnecessary because honestly, the animators are just doing the best they can with the time and resources that were given to them. And I also want to point out that The Duke of Death and His Handmaid, a series that, I enjoyed and has really good reviews, also had pretty bad 3D animation. I remember when watching the first 2 episodes, I kept thinking about how jerky the movements are and, kind of how you have this 3D character that's clearly on a 2D background. And they also reuse scenes left and right. Like this specific dining room animation, I feel like this is the only one that they made and they just used it for the entire series. But I will say the difference between Rusted Armors and The Duke of Death is that The Duke of Death had really lovable characters, a pretty good story, and, kind of just all these other elements that really sold it outside of just the animation. And unfortunately with Rusted Armors, the rest of it just wasn't there. The story wasn't that great, the characters weren't really fleshed out, and unfortunately I think those issues coupled with the kind of weird animation just don't really do it for me, and I don't think I'll be watching the series. Oh boy, did I save the best for last, because this show is incredible. It's about a bunch of age-appropriate businessman hotties just playing badminton, and that's pretty much it. Even outside of just, the hot men, it does seem like a really good sports anime, and honestly, it seems like right up my alley. I guess the only thing that I'm a little confused about is that these guys are all supposed to be, businessmen, but some of them are just being hired to play badminton. Like this one character, I think in his old job, didn't even do business. He just did badminton, but was being called a businessman. So like, I guess I wasn't aware that the badminton scene was so big in Japan. But yeah, I know I'll love this show. I think it's great. I think if you enjoy sports anime, you'll love it as well. And I already know this will be one of my favorites from this season. But yeah, that's it for this video. I'm honestly really excited for this season because there seems to be a lot of shows that are just unnecessarily ridiculous, which is honestly my favorite thing in the world. world. As always, if you guys enjoyed the video, please be sure to like and subscribe if you aren't already, and let me know what you guys think. Are you watching any of the new titles from this season, and if so, do you have any favorites? Or if not, what are some other things you guys are watching? I honestly just enjoy watching stuff, and binge watching is like one of my hobbies pretty much. So if you have any shows or series that you're enjoying, I honestly would love to hear about them. Yeah. Thank you guys so much again for watching my channel. As always, it really does mean so much to me, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye! He's a duck.